Coming up on River City Presents, City Commissioner in Paducah and candidate for Mayor Richard Abraham. Welcome to River City Presents. My name is Daniel Hurt. There's no secret that the most hotly contested election here in Paducah-McCracken County is the race for mayor. There are three candidates that want to be your mayor for the next 4 years and lead the city. They are Richard Abraham, George Bray, and DeJuan Thomas. And joining me today is candidate Commissioner Richard Abraham. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about yourself and pretend that we in the community don't know who Commissioner Abraham is, and who are you and why are you running for mayor?
My name is Richard Abraham. Excuse me. I'm a junior. My dad moved us here in 1972 from Dyer County, Tennessee, a little place just not far from Union City. Moved us here in 72, and then unbeknownst to us, he was ill. He passed away in 76. So went through Paducah Independent School System. Really fell in love with the city during the time when, well, let me put it this way, fell in love with the people of the city when my dad was going through his bout with leukemia. Folks were very reached out to my mom and my sister and I. And so my time spent at Paducah-Tilghman High School, I had a lot of positive influence from coaches and teachers, and really shaped my feelings for the city. And so graduated from Paducah-Tilghman High School, got a full ride football scholarship to University of Kentucky. Upon coming back, found myself pretty much immediately getting involved with the youth of the city. So I worked at Western Baptist Hospital for 10 years. And then in '96, a lady named Carol Hoover, her husband was Jerry Hoover. He was a city manager here for a while. She said, she talked to my wife and said that God had really put on her heart for the inner city. And she wanted to start a street ministry, Vision Inner City Paducah. You can look that up and get some history on that. VIP street ministry. And she said Richard would be the perfect guy to head that up as director. So that was, she talked to Cindy. Cindy called me. I hadn't really thought about leaving Baptist. It was a great job and I loved it. And so, but I decided to leave Baptist and take
What did you do at Baptist?
I was an orderly at Baptist, and all over the floor, you're dealing with people at their most vulnerable. Loved the job, and from the administration on down to my coworkers. And so when I decided to leave, they called me to the conference room down on first floor. And I didn't have any idea what they were going to do. So I go down, and they gave me a check for $1,000. It was the first donation for the street ministry. It lets you know the type of folks that that was in charge over there. And so left there, and man, when I left Baptist, everything just took off. I mean, we were dealing with kids that were in terrible situations. We were dealing with kids that were abused, had been abused, in foster care. We're dealing with those guys. We really linked up with several help agencies. A lot of folks that attended different houses of worship. Here was an outlet for them to really get in and help do some things that a lot of times folks think that the only mission field you have is out away. But you look around and the mission field is plenty right here. Mm-hmm. And so met a lot of people. We did some awesome things, and man, that happened from '96 to about '98, '99. And then it started to kind of wind down, and I never planned on running for office. That never was on the radar. But I ran because I was ticked off. There was something happened that I'm thinking to myself, come on, man, so what had happened, a friend of mine had they were looking at a place over on Bernheim Street for an emergency use shelter, because we had found ourselves, my wife and I, making that run from Paducah to Owensboro in the middle of the night. That was the closest emergency use shelter. And so they had identified a spot over on the north side, and they were just letting the city know. They weren't asking the city for any money at all. And after the guy made his presentation, the mayor at the time made this statement. I will forget. He goes, "Well, we don't really need those kids, those kind of kids over there in that part of town." And my mom lived over there, so I grew up over there. Right. So, but here's the thing that really got me. There were 4 other elected officials there. Now, the mayor chairs the meetings, and in case of a pandemic, like we're in right now, the governor comes through the mayor's office. Other than that, it's you got to have 3 other votes to get anything done. Here's what I didn't hear the other commissioners. I didn't hear anyone say, "Well, where are they now? Where are they now? If you guys don't get this building, where are you going to take them?" Nobody asked that question. I told my wife, I said, that's it. I'm going to pay my $50. I'm going to get my papers, and I'm going to run. And I ran, and I won. And then when I won, I was like, okay, all right.
Now you got to govern.
Now let's see how this thing works. But there was a city clerk there, Anita Smith. She had been there for like 35, 40 years, man. And when I came in the door, I wanted to know what the rules were, right? And I needed to know what I could do individually, and I needed to know what I would need a consensus to do. And she laid it out for me. And she said, "Look, this ordinance book is this thick. You don't have to memorize the whole book. It's a reference book." And so she really helped me out a lot to get that going. And then I fell in love with the job. I love the job. I think. And I told my girls growing up, I got 2 daughters, I said, look, you're going to live in a city, get involved on some level, whether it's writing a letter to the editor, whether it's on the various boards, or you run for office, wherever you find your niche, and as long as your motives are where they need to be, then participate in the process. And so that's the long and short of it. Now I'm here.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. One of the things that we talked about prior to this interview was, if you're a commissioner and you run for mayor, you've got to give up your commission seat and take a chance.
Yeah.
That's quite a gamble, but you sound very passionate about why you want to run. So what's your goals as mayor?
Well, first of all, you have to understand the form of government that we have. And it was amazing to me, this campaign has been kind of weird because you can't really get out and do like you would normally do.
Knocking on doors.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I remember the first time I ran for office, and Robert Coleman was on the commission at the time. And when I decided to run, I'd go knock on doors, and the question I would get was, why are you trying to take Robert's seat? I'm like, there's 4 seats.
That's right.
I mean, what do you mean? Explain that to me. So I would get comments like, well, they're not going to let that happen. Well, who's they? Who are you talking about? Are you registered? I'm past the point of just like letting people off the hook when they ask things like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, explain. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't want to miss anything. So explain to me exactly what you mean by that statement. Then you find out a lot of things, right? So, I ran, and when I won, I really, you understand the form of government that we have. We have a city manager form of government. That is not a mayor council form. Now, most folks that I talked to did not know the difference. And I think the reason that is because most of the mayors that we've had, they've sat in that seat and tried to operate this form of government like a mayor council form, whether it's with attitude or their disposition. When they do interviews, talk about what I'm going to do, and that's not the way a city manager form of government works. You hire a professional manager to operate the day-to-day. That now, as a board of commission, as a member of the board, I need information. I need you to make sure that I'm informed, because I'm not a professional manager. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a finance director, right? So we have professional people, and they're paid very well to do their job. But the decision makers, if I'm going to make a decision based on information that you give me, it better be accurate. Now I can get in there and dig and snoop and do what I want to do, but I need for everybody to understand the form of government that we have. Otherwise, things can go sideways.
How do you think, if you're elected mayor this fall, how do you think you will work with your fellow commissioners, whoever they may be? What do you see as your role working with them?
I'd be great. I'd be great with them, because I've been on that other side. And I totally understand how to interact with your fellow board members. It's not about me. I am comfortable with who I am. Before I ran for office, I knew who Richard Abraham was, and I'm good with it. So when you go in with an attitude like that, I want to make sure that everybody understands where the Board of Commissioners, everybody serves at the pleasure of the board. Now, when I say that, I don't say that to be arrogant or anything, but we're the decision makers. And so there becomes, you really, as a person, just as a person, you really have to cultivate humbleness. That's not natural to us, right? So when we get titles, sometimes we can get caught up in the titles. But if you have someone there as a temperature gauge, if you will, to remind folks, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we need to know, and treat each board member like who they represent, which is thousands of taxpayers. Mm-hmm. So if you're running for office and you get elected, and I'm leaving you out of the loop, in essence, what I'm doing is leaving thousands of folks that voted for you out of the loop, and that leads to no good end.
And that brings up an interesting point, because I know one of the big themes that both you and Bray and DeJuan Thomas have talked about is transparency in city government. So there had been some issues with public comments and things like that. What do you think you could do as mayor to make city government more transparent?
Well, you see, it's amazing when you hear that word. You hear it a lot, especially during campaign season. I want to be transparent. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? When it's comfortable to be transparent, or you're going to be transparent? You say it, you're going to do it, right? Well, if you're going to be transparent, then that means that what group of people needs to know that you're going to be transparent more than the folks that's paying the bills as taxpayers? What are you going to keep from them, and why would you do that? Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean, man. You can get to a point where you feel like, well, I've been in meetings as a city commissioner when a mayor walks in and just says, well, we've city manager, we've talked about this. We tried to keep it from you guys as long as we could, but here it is. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you do that? Right? We're a board of commissioners, right? So right. I think if the person that's a mayor that's sitting in that seat and understands how city manager form of government is supposed to work, then that knocks down a lot of potential problems, because you speak with that authority, you speak with that knowledge, and that will come from the top down.
What do you think about, Bray had talked about maybe limiting public comment to, if everybody's on the same page and there's a bunch of people wanting to talk about the same issue, only allow a certain number of those. I think you guys made the decision that it had to be about what's on the agenda. Do you think that should stay, or do you think that you should change that?
I toss that. Here's the thing. You're talking about being transparent. Okay, so you have to have some structure in that part of the meeting, because you don't want folks up there talking 5, 6, 7 minutes and start repeating themselves, and that's a really good time to kind of wind folks down when they say what they want to say and they go back and start repeating it. You already said that. Yeah. So if you want to have a time limit, that's fine. And I guess it's reasonable to stick to the agenda, right? But I'm of the mindset that we all knew that this is a fishbowl when we threw our hat in the ring to run for public office. I mean, your emails, whatever you send on emails, it's public. It's subject to open records, right? So it's all out there. So you shouldn't get your feelings hurt if somebody comes up and kind of hold your feet to the fire. And I'm fine with that. And when we have folks come up and tell us what a great job we're doing, we just love that kind of talk. You just give
Let that happen as many times as it wants.
you just keep talking, son. But you get somebody up there that's going to nail you down and take issue with the way you're spending their money. All of a sudden, we take that personal. I never take it personal. And the person that's speaking, I may not like what they're saying, but let them speak.
Well, speaking of taxpayer money and public dollars and some transparency, what do you think about the hotel project downtown? What's your position on that?
I don't think it should go where it's the proposed site. I think it should go the old nursing home site. I think if you move it down there,
the old nursing home site.
You know what the hotel is right now, the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Well, across the street there used to be a nursing home there.
Right. Yes.
Well, and that was one of the 8 spots in the hotel study that was a spot there. So I'm thinking the city and the county, we spent a lot of money for that the convention center, and that convention center, man, it had the Big E there for a long time. And then it was tore down. Now those folks over there are trying to go out and recruit and land conventions with no hotel, which is very, very challenging. So they have one now, and that's helped. We put another one right there. That's going to help what they're trying to do. And it's a block, maybe, from downtown. So it's amazing to me when people talk about, well, if we don't put it down on the city block, you're going to stifle progress. I'm like, it's a block down. Do you think that the folks if they're here for a convention and they get out of the convention, they're not going to walk out the hotel door and turn their head this way and come downtown where all the food and the music and we're trying to enhance the riverfront with the bill grant that we got? That doesn't make any sense to me. So. I think and most folks that I talk to, they're not against the hotel. They just don't want it there.
Yeah. Does that impact TIF moving it?
No, it's in the district.
Okay. Well, I know one of the concerns people had is if you reduce the amount of parking in that parking lot, if you're elderly or handicapped, it's a more difficult time to get you downtown to the market house or wherever. Do you think that's a legitimate concern?
Well, I think that was a concern initially, but the more that I talked to folks, I didn't hear so much about the parking as I did about just destroying the ambiance of downtown. There's a lot of things that pop off of that center block right there. It's a meeting place. If you go down there, just like the nights probably coming up this weekend, the weather being what it is, it's a magnet, man, and that's where everybody congregates.
Live on Broadway and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so there's other options there. But I mean, I get the developer come in and is like, I want that place.
Yeah.
Why? Because I think I can make the most money from that place. And so then it's up to the city to decide whether they want to do that or not.
Well, and another one that, it's got moved at the first of the year, but you all decided to move it down. So whoever's the next mayor is going to have to address the aquatic center issue. And so it'll be day one on your agenda probably. So what are you thinking?
Well, let's put it this way. Whoever the next mayor is, the Board of Commissioners are going to have to address that issue.
Right.
Now keep in mind, we're going to have 3 new commissioners regardless of who the mayor is. That's a quorum, man. I don't think that's ever happened in a city where you got 3 new commissioners at the same time. That is huge. You really should get those guys on the show and talk to them because all of these issues, the hotel, the aquatic center, all of these things are right on the plate waiting on them when they walk in the door. Have a seat, here's your meal. Right? So now, unless the top 3 out of the 4 guys that are running for city commissioner were lying or changed their mind, they weren't going to support the aquatic center. That's what they said publicly. So I'm not making anything up here. So that's why it seems a waste to me when our city manager was given the job to spend money on a due diligence type of deal when you got 3 of the 4 commissioners candidates coming up. It's like, we don't think that's a good deal. We're not going to support it. So what are we spending the money for then? Do you think you're going to sway them? You going to change? Somebody going to talk to them and change their mind? I mean, to me, so that's why I just think it's a bad project.
Where do you think the money, instead of being spent on that, should be used? Because there's discussion that there's.
Were you around here a couple of Saturdays ago when it rained and you got SUVs floating sideways down the road? Man,
unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a no-brainer for me. Look, everybody has a part to play. We, as a municipal, our job is laid out in KRS. Now, aquatic centers, that's private sector stuff, man. Let the private sector do that. And you look around, how many do you see? There's one between here and Mayfield, and that's at the PAC. Yeah. Right? And he'll let you know it's a struggle, right? So we have infrastructure problems. You talked about the South Side earlier before we went on air.
Yes.
You know, people should be able to look out their window and see their tax dollars at work. And the South Side has been neglected. I mean, it's like you get together as a board, and you have this focus on, okay, we're going to go Lower Town, we're going to do the artist relocation program, right? So that got going. So where we're going to go from here to where we're going to go? Well, the next obvious choice for me would be the South Side, because you look at a couple of demographics. You got rental property, you got it go education, it goes all kind of different deals to go through, checklists. But then we went Fountain Avenue. So the guys are.
So what do you think we ought to do about South Side? Well,
I think once this election is over, and you have these roundtable discussions, right? These retreats, and you bring up some things that these candidates has heard on the campaign trail that they've said, yeah, that's a good idea.
Who's at these retreats?
Well, I mean, the media can be there, but it's not a closed meeting. So you said, well, let's talk about the South Side. Let's start there. Instead of starting in Lower Town, or let's start on the South Side this time. So what is it? We get the brain trust in the room. What is it that we can do over there? Okay, so we started some infrastructure stuff over there with sidewalks, curbs and gutters and things like that. Okay, what's the next spot? What's the next logical move over there? Well, if you're talking about kind of like what you did in Fountain Avenue, then you got to look at inspections, stepping up inspections and things like that. Now, that's a clutch on the heel right there. You know, folks, so we need something done on South Side. Okay, well, if you start stepping up inspections on a rental property, you can't stay in a condemned house. And if the house isn't up to code, then, okay, I'm sorry, man, you can't stay here. Whoa, the big bad city's throwing us out. Whoa, hang on a second.
Right.
So you got to figure those things out. But that's where you get the board of commissioners together, and then we talk. And I'm the type of guy. Now look, guys. Now when we're knocking on doors, we told folks on the South Side that we were coming this time. So here's what we get the planning department in there, and we figure out how we're going to attack it, and then we take that plan of action and we implement it.
Yeah. One of the things that you'll have to face if you're elected mayor you have to work with different organizations, and one of the, about half of the city's employees are members of labor unions, whether that's FOP or the firefighters or AFSCME. Do you think you can? Do you think you will have a positive working relationship with labor unions?
That's great. I got great relations with those guys. First of all, I've never lied to them. That's a big one. I mean, if you're going to sit across the table from someone, you got to negotiate in good faith. I got 100% support from the IFF, our fire department. Every single fireman endorsed me, right? So how did that happen? I mean, I just being me. right? I mean, don't give me a bunch of stuff that don't make any sense to me and ask me to take it, right? It's got to make sense. So with the Ask Me guys, with the FOP, my record is solid with those guys, and you're going to have to deal with those. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Well, we're about out of time.
What?
But yeah, we've been going pretty good, but was one of those you wish you could have an hour with candidates.
Yeah, I know.
But if you would make your last pitch to the audience why they should hire you over your opponents, and best of luck to you. But go ahead and make your pitch.
Okay, well, look, I'm the best man for the job. I've got the time in. I know where the nooks and crannies are. I don't have to learn on the job. I don't have to wait and catch up and figure out who's doing what. I know where they are, and I know what our issues are from the inside out. And until we start to operate our form of government the way it's designed to work, we're going to have these issues. Some of the things that we've had pop up here in the last year or so. So. Vote for me if you have an opportunity. My grandmama said you pull the curtain. That's where the curtain's on the booth. But I would love to be the mayor of the city. It's been a fascinating journey, and I think I'm the guy for the job.
Well, good luck to you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
That was my guest, candidate for mayor and Paducah City Commissioner Richard Abraham. That was the third in our series of candidates running for mayor. They want to lead the city for the next 4 years, but remember, that choice is yours in November. So vote early and vote in November. Thank you.